Don't worry, they'll bring in new guys, let these ones go down, they'll bring in new ones. All of this is covered up. They kept telling us we have no losses or just minimal ones. But when we were moving in, we saw what the real losses were. And once they dropped us in, there were a lot of them. They kept trying to convince us that we had no losses at all, that everything was fine, like don't be afraid, go ahead, everything's okay. But then they started hitting us with drones after I reported that I had a wounded man with me. They started hitting us with drones, our own side. And when I was coming out, peeking out from the basement, I could see that drones were flying in from our side and targeting us. That was right after I said I had a wounded man with me.
We even had a guy who could barely walk and was always sitting since at home he was on antidepressants. And they took him too. He had mental disorders. And there were many others who even had some kind of medical certificate. Then they would take those certificates away from them and issue documents stating they were fit for service.
So we were sitting in the basement, I saw some Russian guys there, and I shouted the password. We immediately said that we were surrendering without resistance, without anything. We were taken prisoner and they fed us well. We didn't resist, nothing. We didn't want to fight in the first place, we were just thrown in. So in 2 days I didn't manage to get away. I had made arrangements, they were supposed to, where we were based, they were supposed to get me out of there, but I didn't make it in time. In the evening, they suddenly told us to quickly pack our things. The person who was supposed to get me out of the village where we were based, in Dnipropetrovsk region, it wasn't far. For 7,000 hryvnias, he said 7,000 for fuel, but he didn't make it in time. Suddenly, in the evening, they told us to quickly pack our things. Let's go. At first, they didn't say anything about where we were going. Then they said it was for 2 to 3 days, then for a week, then they said 3 weeks. But in the end, I sat there for 40 days until I was taken prisoner. There are a lot of drones, really a lot. If you try to move from one bush to another, as soon as you step out, that's it. A kamikaze drone will kill you right away. When we went in there, the place was littered with bodies, a lot of them, a lot of KIAs. Nothing was recorded anywhere there. They just dropped us at the position, and as I understand it, that was kind of the deal. They'd say, don't worry, they'll bring in new guys, let these ones go down, they'll bring in new ones. All of this is covered up. They kept telling us we have no losses or just minimal ones. But when we were moving in, we saw what the real losses were. And once they dropped us in, there were a lot of them. They kept trying to convince us that we had no losses at all, that everything was fine, like don't be afraid, go ahead, everything's okay. But then they started hitting us with drones after I reported that I had a wounded man with me. They started hitting us with drones, our own side. And when I was coming out, peeking out from the basement, I could see that drones were flying in from our side and targeting us. That was right after I said I had a wounded man with me. I got the impression they wanted to finish us off so they wouldn't have to evacuate us because getting out was really difficult. And after we surrendered and were taken prisoner, they took us in, fed us, treated us well. Everything was normal. And they pulled us out. Even though the approach wasn't that easy, they still managed to get us out. From our side, as far as I understood, no one was planning to pull him out at all, because going there was just too difficult. But over there, somehow the guys managed to get us out. Their orders were to occupy the basement and stay there, basically just sit in that basement. If they saw any civilians, they were supposed to report how many civilians were in the village, who they were, what they were doing, almost interrogate them, bring them in on orders. So they said that all of them were waiting, just waiting for something to happen. Be extremely careful, don't talk to them at all. Don't let them come near you, almost to the point of killing them if they approach.
Around June 18th through 20th, 2025, TCK went to the pharmacy to get medicine for his mother, and on the way, he was approached by two armed men in uniform who took him, put him in a minivan, and drove him to Dobropilia. There they were based either in an abandoned movie theater or a theater. He was kept in the basement for 3 or 4 days while they processed the paperwork. At the time when I was there was still about 3 other people being held. We were kept locked in the basement, not allowed out anywhere until they finished processing some documents, and then they took us to be sold off to a specific unit, starting from age 25 and up, and all sorts of people. We even had a guy who could barely walk and was always sitting since at home he was on antidepressants, and they took him too. He had mental disorders, and there were many others who even had some kind of medical certificate. Then they would take those certificates away from them and issue documents stating they were fit for service. The holding area was like a prison around the perimeter. The trench of the training camp itself was surrounded by fences with barbed wire, and there was tangled barbed wire as well as their trenches along the perimeter. We were only taken out under supervision, even to the training ground. I already realized that we had no chance of getting out of there because at first they told us they would transfer us, that we were assigned to another brigade in a different company. They told us we were just going in for a couple of days to provide support until their own people arrived. But once we got there, they said it would be about a month. In the end, we ended up staying for more than a month, and people around us were dying. I realized there was no way out for us. There were just a lot of birds flying around. No drones were seen, so we had no idea what was happening around us because you couldn't stick your head out. The sky was always dangerous. There were a lot of drones, so we were constantly sitting in the basement, and all you could hear was that those guys had been killed, those ones had been hit, and that one over there had been bombarded. There were a lot of birds. One guy was calling for help over the radio, saying he was surrounded by birds. They were making runs at him, and he was probably losing consciousness or something, just kept saying, "Oh, help me, help me." On the way, we came across quite a few bodies, and there were some lying in our basement too. We spent more than a month in the basement with decomposing bodies. We tried to cover them up with dirt somehow so the smell wouldn't be so bad. And it was impossible to stick your head out of the basement. Food supplies were also really bad. We found something in the basement, a few cans of food, and just barely got by. Water was even harder to come by. Our nerves gave out from all of it, from the hopelessness and despair. I decided to throw a grenade under myself. I threw the grenade, but somehow, apparently God spared me. I was wounded. My partner bandaged me up and I just lay there. The next day, Russian soldiers came and we surrendered to them. They took us to their position and dressed my wounds there. They fed us and everyone treated us humanely, so I stayed with them until they moved us out of the position. Once they even took us out, but we were spotted and bombed together. Then we moved to another position and waited there until a corridor opened up so we could leave. Mostly they bring in new guys, those who just finished training, and as far as I know, almost none of them survived. Because the same people who came in, I was assigned to a different company, so I didn't know any of them by face. But from the way they talked on the radio, I got the distinct impression that most of them had also just recently finished training and they weren't really prepared either. They weren't experienced either and didn't really understand what needed to be done at the position. And just like us, no one really explained why we were going there. They gave us a point, we went to it and just sat there. Even getting to that point was really tough.